Yeah, I'm good. I'm live now. Okay. Um, Today's another day, so I'll be doing another course. I'm starting a bit earlier than usual because hey, I finally joined the locked in crew. So today I'll be doing a how to design a monster course from Skillshare. I not necessarily I have trouble with creating monsters because I've never really tried creating monsters. So this is more of a course that I had, and I'm just curious to see how it goes. So let's follow it. Let's see what happens, and let's start drawing some stuff, man. Let's go.
Hi everyone, this is Andrew here. So, welcome to the course. In this course, I'll be talking about how to design a monster, and which in this course we'll be talking about dragon. Now, before we get started with actually designing a dragon, I just want to give a little bit of introduction. For monster design, and it's a lot more about brainstorming and concept. That's why it's called a concept design. For character design, monster design, it has a lot more to do with brainstorming and idea forming rather than just the drawing itself. Sometimes the drawing itself actually doesn't really take that long once you land initial direction. Now, the reason I want to choose dragon for this course rather than something really wide open like a alien monster is because for concept drawing, there's two types of concept drawings. There's the confined concept design and the non-confined concept design. And what I mean by confined and non-confined, it means something like dragon would be confined concept design, and basically you're limited to a specific target and goal. Well, not limited, but you have a certain target and goal in mind. In this case, dragon has everybody in their head. They kind of know what a dragon looks like. Two wings, four leg, a long neck. It doesn't mean that the final goal has to have two wings. It could have four wings. Doesn't have to be have four legs. It could have six legs and so forth. But then the final goal is to still somewhat, people see it and they could kind of feel it's kind of like a dragon-like creature. You wouldn't really want to, draw, let's say, a bear-looking creature and call it a dragon. That's kind of falling a little bit far from the design. So like character design, if you were to design a pirate, you wouldn't want him to look like, let's say, a sci-fi, character. So something with a more targeted goal, and that will be what I call the confined design. Now, for the non-confined design, it will be something really more open, like alien pet, or a swamp monster. It's somewhat it still have the title of swamp monster or alien, still should look alien like, but then you could kind of imagine just from the word itself the end product could be something really really um, really distinct. Everyone probably have a really different result. Now, the reason that confined concept of drawing is pretty important is because a lot of times when you're working on a project or for for game design, you're probably given a pretty specific scenario, or it doesn't have to be game design; it could be art, illustration, book. So it's really important that I want to walk everyone through how I would come out with my design process for the concept what dragon would be.
Okay, that was a nice little intro. So we are doing his process, of course, because he's the teacher in this particular case. So we will be doing his process on how he would create a monster, or in this case, a dragon. I will be following along, and let's see what happens. In case you're wondering what I'm drawing here, this is from a different course I followed. It was basically just put a bunch of lines on the paper and then see if you can connect it and make something. Don't know what it is, but I connected it and it's something. I have no idea what it is. If I keep working on it, I might find it, but for now, that's not why we're here. This was just a quick warm up to get started on it, to get started on like getting my mind ready to draw some stuff. So I yeah, let's go to the next video. Nice.
Now, the first step is basically gathering inspirations, compiling ideas, keywords, and direction. So what I'm going to start off with in this first lesson is basically before we even get into drawing, we'll start about, brainstorming, concept design, keywords.
Okay, real quick, he's doing it digitally and I'm doing it traditionally. So there will be some kind of a disconnect between how fast he goes and the changes he makes. Now you can't see any of it, but I can. So I'm telling you whatever I draw, it's not going to look at how he draws because he's doing it digitally. But okay, let's keep it going.
What I mean by keywords is, something to just like generate the flow of ideas, something to generate the direction. Like I mentioned right at the beginning, it's not just about how well you draw, it's about thinking and imagining. Now, so for this design, dragon, I'm gonna walk through the live process, whatever. Basically, what I would go through if I was to design something like that. So, keyword. Let's just say elemental. The category, it could be whatever you want to think about. Elemental is just it doesn't really necessarily have to be elemental. I'm just gonna start with that. And let's say I'm just really brainstorming live right here as I'm recording. I'm gonna do fire. A dragon could be ice. It could be death. I'm not even sure if death is an elemental, but that's not really too important right now. Godly. Maybe poison. What could be a cool dragon? What could be a cool dragon? It could be I don't know, snow. Snow is kind of same as ice, but I'm just doing whatever thing I could think about right now. And let's just move on to the next topic. Physics. Physical. So how would does a dragon look like? When you're thinking of a concept, you don't want to just think of a typical red dragon. It could be something really wild. It could be really cool. So, obviously, typically the dragon will be lizard, and let's just say frog and bear. You see, bear is nothing like a dragon, but I'm thinking, if I want this really like chunky, bulky looking dragon, I don't know, maybe it could look like bear. I don't know, it could have lion. I'm gonna put like spider. So I'm gonna just put these words here. I'm not totally thinking of pure random words. What I'm thinking right now, I'm still trying to kind of form an image in your head. Before you get started drawing, you want to start forming these images, in your head a little bit like that. And let's say personality. What's the dragon's personality? Okay, obviously it could be evil. It could be fierce. Let's say it could be, just a timid, cute, sneaky, agile. It could be something like that. And I'm just gonna keep brainstorming. Habitat. Where does this dragon live? So for a dragon, maybe it could be underground, under a cave, let's just say. It can live in the sky. It can live in lava. Can it be underwater? Underwater. And say a swamp. So now, once you have these, words here, your ideas are starting to flow a little bit more. And let's see if there's any other physical property that we can think about. Now, let's say special features. Special. There's something unique about this dragon. What is unique about this dragon? Um, it could be spikes. It could be dripping lava. It could be it could fur. It could fur. It could have multiple arms. So I'm thinking of all these brainstorming right now. And then next, basic. This was probably something you probably should be starting with first. Basic. So for basic dragon, how does a dragon look like? So for confined drawing, you want to establish some of the basic traits. For example, a dragon would have wings, 2 wings, 4 leg, long neck, scale. Okay, now that we have something really basic, generated right here, you could start kind of brainstorming in your head. So how I want the dragon to look like. So for this basic part, of the dragon, we're dealing with something, long leg, basically wing. I'm just, drawing a basic, silhouette of a dragon right here. So this is all probably here you go, a tail. Now, because it's confined concept drawing, you probably want to stay a little bit similar to this type of design, but it doesn't mean that it has to have 2 wings. It can have 4 wings, 6 wings. Doesn't mean it has to have 4 legs. It can have 2 legs, 6 legs. Long neck, same thing. You could break that. Tail, it might not have a tail. It's skin. It might not be a scale. But you want to, maybe if you could get rid of the long neck, you could get rid of the 2 wings. But you don't want to remove every single element of this basic dragon design. This is what kind of keeps it to this on topic. You could try to play around, break the rules, and so forth. But just try to keep these things in mind. Everything we've written here in this notes, they are more just something to start off the general direction with your brainstorming, and nothing is really set in stone. When we start doing the next part of the lesson, we're gonna deal with thumbnails and just sketches. This is where you'll be pulling out your ideas from, your inspiration from. So right here, what you want to kind of set a little bit in direction is, what type of dragon you want to design. So right here, let's just say I'm just gonna try to imagine. I'm gonna do a poisonous dragon. And poison, I just kind of imagine it with, let's say, I'm going to try to stay a little bit far away from the typical dragon. Let's say I want to do a frog and maybe a spider. Up until this point, I really don't know what exactly I'm going to draw. I just thought these elements might be a little bit cool. And this dragon might be, it might be, fierce. So it might be a chunky, bulky dragon. It could live, let's just go with the swamp since it's poisonous, and dripping lava fur. Let's just go with some spike and dripping lava. And for the basic dragon, this part is more like it's just something that I'm gonna keep in mind instead of choosing what to put, because I still don't really know what I'm trying to do yet until I start with the thumbnail sketching. Concept design, you just keep pumping out idea every step of the way. Normally, if I was to do a concept like this, I will probably come up with a little bit of a longer list. I will probably spend a little bit more time, brainstorming just the whole background of the ideas. Sometimes when before I start doing a concept, before I even start jotting ideas down, before I start doing any type of thumbnails, one of the steps I will do is just purely brainstorm. I'll be, eating my breakfast. I'll be going to work. I'll be walking around and I'll be just thinking, how would this dragon look like? And just as you keep brainstorming, even though if you don't have a, concrete idea, your brain will slowly just kind of push you into a direction of, that might be a cool idea, this might be a cool idea. And that's when you start to organize organize your ideas into key points, keywords, the general direction. There are different types of headings that that we could add to this list. Would be, for example, uh, color. It could have size. Uh, it could have let's say textures. Whatever you could really think about. It could have purpose. And what I mean by purpose is, why? What is dragon for? Is this for war machine? Is it just something that lives in the wild? Is it as a creature that was summoned by an evil wizard? There's some type of background story. Let your imagination go wild. And also, the last thing I want to mention is, especially for confined design like a dragon, your head is slowly going to push you back towards, the typical red scaly dragon with giant wings. You want to just, whenever your head kind of start doing that, just push it away, and just really try to break free into thinking some type of, a little bit more unique, a little bit more wild design. It doesn't necessarily mean that the red dragon is wrong, but that's something, you could easily pull reference from, anytime that you want. And anytime that you want to, when your drawing start to fall, to follow that direction, there's a lot of images of really tough dragons that you could really find. Now, after you create a list like this, and just somewhat circle the points that you would like to proceed with, it's time to do some research. You could just, one of the really cool way to brainstorm for me is go to Google image search, type poison, and just see all the thumbnails that get pulled out, and type frog and just see all the thumbnails that get pulled out, spider, even words like fears. Sometimes you'll end up with like really random pictures that has totally nothing to do with the word. Sometimes maybe if I search a frog, I don't know, a bird might come out, eating a frog. So it really, Google image search and other search engine, it really links random ideas together. When you search for a word like spikes, for example, you might get a lot of really strange image linking together. So once you start doing that, start gathering a little bit of image, start brainstorming your thought, and then we'll be moving ahead to the next step, which would be just more starting with its sketches and the silhouettes. Now, this concludes the first part of the concept brainstorming for Monster Design Dragon, and I'll see you next lesson.
So I just finished the whole video, and he didn't ask me to draw a thing, but he promises that we're going to start doodling with the next video. So let's start doodling on the next video then, shall we? Yeah, once again, I'm just putting lines on the paper to get my hand warmed up, to get my mind warmed up, get everything ready for whatever the heck he wants to draw. This is what you call a practice run. No, not practice run, a warm-up run. And not for some reason, I usually try to get my warm-up runs, to get them with basic shapes, to keep them all the basic shapes. I hope, I'm not like good at drawing this yet, but I hope that eventually this will help me improve my drawings in the long run. Because drawing is for the long run. You don't draw something like, what, I'm gonna be good today. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. This stuff is gonna take years. And those little steps you do in between, those little things you do, they add up. So me just practicing my random shapes should really help with stuff. As for this random texturing, I messed this up so bad. I wanted to cuss myself out. I totally did not take perspective into consideration when doing this one. Totally does not. Very, very frustrating. But yeah, as for the rest, it works. It's just me putting lines on the paper, warming up to see what we're gonna sketch. Okay, let's go to the next video. See what he has to say to me. Let's see what he's gonna teach.
Hi everybody, welcome back. In this part of the lesson, I'm going to give a really quick crash course on Photoshop. For anyone that's totally new to Photoshop, Photoshop is a tool that has a lot of fun features. But for drawings, it's really limited. Well, not limited. There's a few basic tools that you probably should get yourself familiar with. And in this lesson, I'm going to have a really quick run through of just basic skills and basic tools that you'll need for Photoshop. And let's just start with the basic. If you open up the file, you could click New, and this is where you set the size of your canvas that you'll be drawing on. The main thing you probably want to pay attention to is the width and height. And here you can select between inches and pixels and whatever. And also the resolution. You could somewhat ignore this for now unless you want to print your final assignments. And for printing purpose, you probably want to set something at 300 pixel per inch. So in this case, I'm going to create a document 16 by 9 inch, which I already did right here. Now on Photoshop, when the default window, you see this toolbar at the side. There's a lot of different tools. So the first thing you want to get used to is this pen brush. So you have this pen icon, which the shortcut key is B. Now, if you right-click on your mouse or your tablet, you'll come up with all kinds of different brushes. There's these brushes that have tilt sensitive, depending on if you're using a tablet. Now, there's a brush that has this type of a little bit texture type effect. There's a typical circle brush in Photoshop. And if you click on this first square right here, this is where the color picker is, and you can select between different colors. Now, and you could select, green and blue. And you can also pick, select, you could play around with these types of settings that would kind of choose the different RGB, CMYK. But all these little parts, I don't think you really have to pay too much attention to. So you select the correct color right here, and just start drawing. Now, next thing you want to pay attention to is this layer window. And if you don't see this layer window, you go up to Windows and Layer, or you could see right here for PC's F7. So layer is really important as well. It makes use of Photoshop, where one of the key advantage for going digital is that you can create new layers. For example, you could click the square button to create a new layer on top. So what happened is, anything you draw on top, it will be on a separate layer. So this is really important when you are, creating sketches. You could, you don't have to worry about being too clean, because you can always disable a layer. And for layer setting, there's also another thing that I use a lot. There's opacity right here, right above. You can lower the opacity, lower or increase the opacity of a layer. So if you're doing sketches, especially, when you do a sketches, you think it goes too dark, you can kind of just lower it a little bit so you can kind of see what you're trying to do. Now, when you have a layer selected, and it doesn't matter what tool you're on, if you hold down Control, you'll see that your pen cursor has turned into the arrow with this kind of plus sign. This is when you could drag the layer and you could just shift things around. So this is also important when you want to just move things around. Let's say you don't want to draw too much in the center. You can just move it a little bit around like that. So I'm going to create a new layer. And let's just say I want to draw a square. So you can move the square around depending on how the final position that you want. So I could have a triangle right here. Now, another tool that you probably want to get used to is the lasso tool. There is a circle and there's a freehand lasso. Let's just go with the freehand a little bit. Freehand lasso basically just select. You can select whatever object you need by just selecting it. And again, if you press Control, you see how it's not a plus sign anymore, because you're selected part of the image. So basically, what it does, it cuts and move things around. So you see I can move this triangle above. Or you can select both and push control and move them both away. Now the difference with here, this one with the circle, you could drag and just create a shape lasso where you could, and if you hold on to this, you could change it to a square lasso. So this is basically a different type of way to select them, select portion of your layer, and you can move things around. So what you want to keep in mind is, you see how in the small thumbnail of the layers, these two have these checker pattern at the back. What this means is that these checker patterns are transparent. So even though if you're used to working in the traditional way, you might not have the concept of something that's transparent. But just watch what happens. In this background, I'm gonna draw a circle and a square. Now I'm gonna select the square and then move it. Watch what happens when I move this square. You see how the white area is starting to cover the circle right here. And this is because even though I'm trying to cut the square, because I'm actually cutting the white as well. So imagine this is a piece of paper, I'm cutting the white. That's why when I'm moving the white colors away, this is kind of covering the red circle. And you can also see in this thumbnail, this background layer, the most default layer, it's not transparent. It starts off with a flat color. So if you want to just purely move this square, you can either really select it carefully, or create a new layer and draw the square, and you could move the square freely around because everything other than the square is transparent. Now these are some of the really main tools for Photoshop that you probably want to get started, want to learn. And there's just a quick one. There's an eraser tool where you can obviously erase an object. And the eraser tool, I get these questions a lot. Sometimes on the background layer, just give me 1 second, and let me just set up a color. Here we go. Let's say I want to erase the square that I just drew right here. I'm not using the eraser tool, and I'm erasing. But watch what happened. It actually comes up as blue. So sometimes the student have no idea why it's coming out as blue. This is because right here, for the bottom square palette, you have this blue setting here. This is the background color. This is the foreground color. The computer, Photoshop can't tell what the background color is supposed to be. This background, you see, this color is actually filled as a white. But because this background color is set as blue, when you erase, it pretends the background color is blue. So it's erasing this red, but it's replacing it with the background color blue. So you want to, if you want to erase it white, just keep it as, keep this background color as white. But if you're using the eraser tool on a layer with transparency, this is not going to happen because, there's nothing behind it. It's in a transparent layer. So that's something you want to keep in mind. The other tools that we'll probably need while working, I'll probably talk a little bit about it, during the lessons where we actually start sketching and start coloring. Now, the last thing I want to go over, with this crash course to Photoshop, is the layers blend mode. So watch what happens right here. I have this red color, and it's set as normal right here. But if I set this, watch, as multiply, which is something that you'll use really often, you see how the red kind of goes over. It kind of becomes this transparent color going over the colors beneath. This is what multiply does. It's kind of, imagine you have this red drawn on a real transparency. And whatever color you overlay is going to darken the colors underneath. So where does this come in handy? For example, I'm doing a sketch. And I'm just drawing this, let's say this square right here. Doesn't really matter what you draw. And on top, I'm drawing, I'm not even sure what I'm drawing. I'm drawing this box. which I have this brush set. The default brush sometimes set this. You know this set this as normal. So I'm drawing this some type of shape on top. I don't know, this circle, this, these shapes on top. So I can't really see what I'm drawing underneath. So if I set this as multiply, I just see what I'm drawing underneath. And you're gonna see how this is handy later on, especially when we're dealing with colors, when we're dealing with sketches, or why the reason why you want to draw, be able to see the colors underneath. But just keep that in mind. Different type of blend mode will have different effect on the layers underneath the current layer. Now, in the most common layer that you'll be using is probably normal and multiply. For other layers, you can play around with the effect of what it does, and there's a lot that can be done with Photoshop. And so again, the brush, the lasso, the layer window, holding control to move layers around, and the blend mode. And that should be it for the really quick crash course in Photoshop. And we'll get started with drawing.
Yeah, only problem with this one was, well, I'm not really using Photoshop, so all that stuff did not really do much for me. Not did it? No, it diddly didn't. Yes, I said diddly. It diddly didn't. No, 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 it diddly didn't. Mm. So yeah, it's we're on the third video right now, and he has yet to start us off on drawing something. So while we're waiting, I'm just drawing random stuff at this point. I wanted to see if I could sketch something real quick. Now, mind you, this is a super rough sketch. I know there's a bunch of mistakes in here. I just wanted to, well, not just sit here and look at the video. I wanted to actually do some while waiting on this guy to actually start teaching something. So I just, yeah, I just wanted to draw something just to see what it was and see what was possible. I just wanted to draw something. Don't know what it is. I just hey, don't don't blame me. Uh Let me finish this page real quick. Let me wrap it up with some extra stuff because well I don't want to waste paper. I really do not. So to not waste paper, what do? You fill the paper up. That's what I'm doing. I'm filling the paper up. Because well, what fun would it be if I just threw this piece of paper away and I didn't even try to fill it up. Based on this angle, you would not see that one. Yeah. And from time to time, you just gotta have a little bit of uh, practice before you actually start drawing something. And that is usually my rule, to just practice. Wake it up, start doing something. I messed that up, but who really cares, right? Who really cares? Make some lines real quick. See, this is my practice. I have trouble going down. Like this angle right here is really messing me up. I should practice those long strokes. Should really practice those. Yeah, godlike people can just, godlike artists can just make straight lines like it's nothing. Me, I gotta practice. Okay, let's go to the next video. See what happens.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Now it's finally time to get started with visualizing the concept and visualizing the ideas. I organized right here from the first lesson of the keywords that we've chosen. Now we're going to start to just brainstorm about the form, the shapes, and silhouettes. Now just keep in mind, these silhouettes and form, it doesn't necessarily have to directly, follow all these limits that we created at the beginning. When you're doing a concept drawing, never let anything really limit yourself. Just go free with your form, with your design. It's a back and forth process. You can't just, it's not, when you're doing a concept, you can't just, only start with keyword and based on the keyword do thumbnails. Everything have to go back and forth. While you're doing the thumbnail, you might change some of the keywords you had in mind. But then keyword is mainly as a starting point. Is a good, is a good general flow, general direction for you to start off with your concept. So now for the silhouettes, with these things, just keep it at the back of your head, and okay, let's see, what am I going to do? The dragon. For the dragon, usually when you're going to start the silhouette, you just want to keep in mind the basic traits, the two wing, four legs, and again, this might sound, contradicting. That still, it doesn't mean that it's limited to two legs, four legs, two wings. Now, for silhouettes, there's so many different ways to do silhouettes. I'm going to do this in Photoshop, but however, it works pretty much the same ways in pencil and paper. So what I personally tend to kind of do, I tend to use a little bit of lighter color, and then I'm just gonna go really sketching the form, because I know that there is going to be a body, there's going to be a leg. So I'm just, you see, I'm not doing any type of line. I'm just kind of drawing scribbles. I'm trying scribbles. I know that there's a leg, and then there's part of your wing. It's starting to look, just a general basic form of a dragon.
Okay, so what he's doing, he's scribbling, which is cool. But I have never practiced scribbling with a pencil the way he's scribbling right now, because he's not scribbling with like a straight line. He's scribbling with like a paintbrush. And a paintbrush would give you like this kind of thickness, so he just goes around with this kind of thickness, making the shape. While I'm walking with like fine tip, trying to get that shape. It would not be the same. It would not be the same. But challenge is a challenge. Okay, let's scribble and see what we can do.
I don't really have anything specifically in mind. Just a general silhouette of what will represent the piece really well. So here I could do a few different ways. You see all these little scribbly squiggly lines. What helps me with having these squiggly lines is that when I come back later to look at this drawing, these little lines in the middle, these lines in the middle might give me a little bit of ideas. And I'm going to use an eraser. And same thing with eraser. Um, I could erase chunks of it and just to kind of slowly form, uh, the silhouette. Now, what you want to keep in mind is usually for me, especially the first sketch of a drawing, it looks really plain. There's uh, nothing really interesting, really too much going on, because I'm probably my brain is still not free enough to really totally brainstorm, really freely. So here we go. I have a just really generic dragon. So that is what I would do for just a really typical silhouette. For silhouette, there's so many ways to just do it. So now I'm going to start to maybe explore a little bit of form, look for different forms. What if, okay, let's say the dragon has a really long head, and for example, a smaller body.
Okay, give me a second because he used an eraser to clean it up a little bit. So I have to like line weight some stuff to clean this up a little bit. So let me clean it up a little bit to see what I can find here. I've never really actually drawn a dragon though, so I'm freestyling my behind off, trying to find the proper shapes to make this look like what a dragon could look like. But yeah, it's just me following the doodle system as he called it. Just adding line weight to yeah. Not too sure what I'm doodling though, but you know, he's photoshopping it, I'm penciling it, so there's bound to be some discord over here. Bound to be. Uh okay. This is like what he erased. I have to like line weight it. So following along with his doodle concept, this is my dragon. Okay. Let's start with the next one.
So I'm now going to think back. I want him to be a little bit like a frog or a spider. So let's play with a little bit of frog. The frog, they usually in my head, they usually just kind of stand on the front 2 feet, and they have this long leg, this feet going down. At this point of the picture, it might be good to kind of again look for references. Look for references how frog looks like, and maybe you could find a little bit of a general idea. Now here, I think the leg is a little bit off balance to support this giant head, obviously. So I'm just gonna keep it down, but always remember, there's no wrong method in this sketch. So right now I'm sketching as I'm sketching, and keep in mind this is basically I'm doing this uh, live in the sense that I still don't really have something really set up in my mind right now. What I'm trying to do, so I'm just trying to brainstorm with it. You see the circle, for example, just to kind of explain my chain of thoughts. The circle, it might be because I'm thinking of that cheek of a frog, cheek of a frog. That's why I'm having this little circle, and right here I'm not dealing with any type of detail features at all. So maybe the wing normally starts off at the back. Maybe the wing here would maybe start off a little bit more at the top part of, of the neck. So this is the back of the wing. So this still feels a little bit unbalanced. So I'm going to maybe pump up the chest a little bit right here. The head, for example, right here, I think it's looking a little too big or too big. So I'm going to select this and push Control T. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make the head a little bit smaller.
He used the Photoshop cheat. I can't use the Photoshop cheat. I'm trying to follow along what he's doing, but I can't cut this, make it small, put it over here. I can't do that. I would have to draw the entire thing again. The difference between traditional and Photoshop, people.
So let's kind of start off with, again, using eraser. Now, overall, I think there's a little bit of there's still quite a lot of issue right here. The body, the form, it kind of really looks a little bit chubby. But that will be my generally my second sketch. So right here, you want to keep these sketches really short and really quick. So I'm going to erase and hide the keyword layer. I'm just going to keep going back with thumbnails. You don't really have to not really a specific size you have to do. So I'm going to try to go with let's say a spider, because I have a spider in mind. So spider kind of have these type of legs. Obviously a dragon, you don't want to just like give them a spider body or anything like that. But again, this is where I'm gonna just start off and let's see how it goes from there. So spider, maybe the tail will be kind of like a scorpion-like, since it's an insect type creature. So again, I'm working with this silhouette. I have no clue how the head is supposed to look like, really. Maybe give it a really long horn. So another dragon head right there. Big giant wing. I could probably just put over and just in general, just resize these a little bit right there. I have a really large canvas, so I'm just fitting a little bit of silhouettes right here.
Okay, that was the end of that video. If I line weight this a little bit, what do I get? I'm trying to follow along with this pencil, man, but this guy is all about that digital life, and he's erasing stuff, and the canvas still looks clean because, well, Photoshop. Meanwhile, I'm out here struggling trying to get something to look like something, which is okay because you know. Well, yeah, it's a little. This guy's starting to look like a horse, man. The heck? Whatever. We'll figure it out. Yeah, no, I would never ever use this. This looks terrible. Yeah, but hey, it's part of the process. You mess up, and then you keep going. I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that is. Looks interesting though, but yeah. Let's just go to the next video. See what happens.
So I'm just kind of drawing these dragons side in the side view for now. You don't really have to draw, dragon side view. You could just play around with a lot of random shape on different angle. So, and you could maybe, for example, I could experiment with a little bit of different brushes. Um, there's a lot of different brushes in Photoshop that you could really work with, and so I'm going to this time. I feel a little bit restricted with the way that I was doing the sketches. So I have this kind of this like dry marker type brushes. So I'm just kind of play around with these random shapes. In this shape, these I had the dragon's anatomy in mind when I'm doing it. So here I'm just kind of trying to play with kind of play a little bit with more of a random shape of how it goes. So now I don't, right here I'm still trying to pick out what exactly I'm drawing. I don't really know what exactly I'm drawing, to be honest. And now that I'm doing a thumbnail, I feel that these part might be the wings of the dragon. So the dragon might be kind of coming forward. So this part will be where the neck is. I'm going to start to build a little bit of form right here. So I have this dragon. So I kind of have an idea. This is the wing. The dragon's kind of flying towards the viewer. So that could be somewhat in another thumbnail that's here. Sometimes these angle it makes the drawing it makes it a little bit more dynamic, but always try to put both things in mind. Not just focusing on having a cool pose. Cool pose. You can always find a cool pose for whatever design you're trying to work for near the end. So right here, let me see what I could do. I'm still, not too satisfied with this one. I'm gonna try to work on something with a little bit of a shorter, a shorter neck in general. So this is where the head is. Give them a really thick chin, and this leg. Here. So this is dragon. After when we're done with this thumbnail process, the next step that I'll be talking about will be basically refining these thumbnails. Even with the same looking thumbnail, there could be a lot of various different design that could come out with the same thumbnails. So you see, I'm using the eraser to kind of draw, doing a tiny bit of detail right here, just to kind of find shapes within these shapes. So here's the thumbnail of a dragon. Kind of like a little bit of how this thumbnail is coming out. It has this really bulky look to it, and it kind of looks nice. Let me go back to the keyword to see what I was thinking of. Frog, poison, spider, furious, spike. Oh, there's a spike, dripping lava, and swamp. Let me just try to go with one more thumbnail, and then I'm just gonna go come back to the to the list and work on it a little bit more. So let's go for So what you're looking at right now is basically the exact process that I usually come when I'm trying to solve a design concept design issue. So I'm going to draw this dragon kind of a little bit more upright. Let's see how it goes. So I know I have this, right here. My thought again, just explaining a little bit my thought process. I know I have this general thought in my head. I can't really seem to pinpoint it exactly how I want this dragon to be. I could give him a little bit of longer arm. That's going to make it look a little bit better. Longer arm right here is planted to the ground. Shoulder. So whether or not you're doing this by Photoshop or by hand, it follows pretty much the same theory. By hand you could just find a thick marker, or you could find you could use scribbles, you could use whatever method that you want, as long as the focus is really to create a giant shape. So this current dragon that I'm kind of designing is a little bit more of a short torso. It has really wide, for example, wide tail, and then it has wings that really goes upwards. Kind of this narrow wing right here. I'm drawing the back wing right here. So I have this like kind of really general look right here. Again, I'm gonna just lower it down so things are a little bit similar in size. Just kind of take a look at these bunch of thumbnails that I just sketched. Just gonna organize them a little bit better. And you see, this first one that I start off with, it doesn't even look like a dragon. It looks like some little wimpy this little wimpy like kind of worm type character. Now we have the first set, just a general brainstorm. See, I think as we move forward and get a little bit more relaxed, the thumbnails are starting to come together, a little bit better in terms of the interesting silhouette.
Okay, that was another video. I actually like that scribble method though, because you just put a bunch of lines on the paper and then try to find the dragon within it. It's an interesting method, and it actually works with a pencil too. I didn't think it would, but it kind of does. I love being proved wrong. It's the best feeling in the world, man. Best feeling in the world. Let's go.
It's right here. Now the next part for this, what I will suggest anyone who's digital is I have a layer right here. So I'm going to make a copy of this layer, and then I'm just gonna hide it. I'm just keep it kind of as a backup, original thumbnail. And what I'm going to start doing with the second one is I'm going to start moving these shapes around. I'm going to start playing with them just to see if there's anything interesting that I could come up with. Again, brainstorm. Let's see. I'm going to put this dragon. I'm going to merge it with here. I'm going to maybe extend it with here a little bit. I don't know. I'm just going to try to merge these, put these characters a little bit together and see, what could be done. And for example, I like this torso right here. So I'm going to copy it and maybe just try to put it let's see, just put it with this character right here. And just select it and move it a little bit back and move this a little bit forward. So right here, I have this. So maybe based on this, kind of these two different type of silhouette, I could kind of see if I could come up with anything interesting. I think overall, because the head, I copy and paste, it's looking really similar to here, but it gives a little bit of a variation in terms of body. This body kind of trails downwards a little bit, and I think it creates a really interesting. It could create a really interesting dragon as well. And as for this one, I can maybe just crop the this top part right here. I'm going to duplicate the layer and just, let's say put it with this dragon, and we're just going to use an eraser behind and just kind of erase what I have at the back, and just take what I need from the bottom one. And for example, in this case, second. Just general shift everything down a little bit. So in this case, because I merged it here, I can see maybe this two wing kind of works a little bit better. So I'm starting to pump up this a little bit interesting design, and I see this leg. The spider-looking leg coming from the bottom, I think it actually has this really interesting look to it. So I'm gonna, put this, keep the spider legs in right here, and I'm not really sure how these back legs gonna be. And because he's a poisonous dragon, who knows? Spider legs. So I have a design somewhere like here. Now I can start chopping away things for this dragon. Let's see, I'm going to erase part of it. I'm going to get an eraser. And just create these a little bit interesting shape through using the eraser. Maybe he's a really skinny looking dragon. And just playing with the form a little bit more. His back leg. And let's see the head. To have a really narrow head. So that's another interesting dragon design. So I'm gonna copy these three right here. I'm gonna push Control Shift C, which is I'm gonna copy it, and I open up the original one. let me just extend the canvas a little bit. I'm going to use the crop function and just make the canvas a little bit bigger and just fit in the new thumbnails that I did right here. Let's position it somewhere here. You see now right here we have a page of really simple thumbnails. Right here you can see that obviously the thumbnails at the beginning. You see how I said the thumbnails at the beginning, it looks really really simple, and it's not really that fun. And that's true. As it gets more and more developed, we're starting to have really more interesting shapes. So for right here, I'm going to keep this for the layers. I'm just going to, again, this is my original layer. Right now, what I'm going to start to do, I'm going to refine these thumbnails just a little bit more. Well, not to a point that's really, detailed or anything like at this moment. So this is where I start to, again, think about this early element: poison, frog, spider, dripping lava, spikes. For thumbnails, let's start by adding a little bit of spice right here, just in general, because let's say I really want to, just put some spice here. Okay. Okay, just gonna play around with these, having these giant spikes on the head. I don't know, these giant spikes right here. I can have a hook at the end of the wing. Keep it, you always keep your, head free of too much limitation right here. Right here, I'm just really trying to, again, still brainstorm as much as I can. Because after you have the silhouette somewhat done, you're gonna probably come back and draw over this to refine your sketch, which is the next step that we'll be talking about. And then that's where it opens up a lot of room to still do something really drastic different to the overall silhouette. I'm to a point where I'm going to give up on this dragon. The silhouette is limiting my my creativity, that I can't really do anything really too cool with it anymore, I think.
He is really going Photoshop on me. I can't really follow this with pencil. He's going on Photoshop on me. I can't. No, this is Photoshop level stuff, man. I thought it was able to follow this with drawing.
Trying to see if I can imagine these kind of armor coming on top of this dragon.
Yeah, I can't really follow along with what he's doing right now.
Small detail, and as I'm working for this on this design, in my back of my head right now, I'm kind of leaning a little bit towards this design still. Like I could see a lot of possibility when I'm doing the final. So by the time when you're working at final, the final the thumbnails, the image just slowly begin to form in your head. How
hello.
Is this? What
figured I would say hello on that too.
Going to be what you're going to do with this dragon.
Okay.
There's a few dragons I think this
well,
work a little bit more,
At
as well.
least not
Depending
stop drawing.
on
Let's not
how I
stop drawing.
decide to approach it. So we'll go right here. There's small details right here, just to kind of give me some brainstorm again. Just, think of spiders and just putting some strange spider furs in here and give it a little bit more like a wing, a little bit more kind of ragged looking wing.
That is a scrappy looking dragon I got right there. Nope, don't like him.
There's holes here. Let's see right here. For this one, you see, now this one, after looking at here, kind of give me an idea. What if I gave him a lot of furs at at the top of the back of the character? Obviously, in my initial direction, I never considered fur, but if it's kind of give off of this kind of really interesting look, it's not necessarily bad to just kind of swap the design right here and just come up with this kind of furry top design, and then right here, what I kind of see from this silhouette again, just to explain my little thought process, these really ragged line right here, I kind of imagine him having a little bit of a really kind of strange looking kind of anatomy, these kind of bony looking body. So that's something I can remember that I could really play with right here. And then it has a body kind of open up, spice coming down. I don't know. Okay, so this is the general overview of how the thumbnail is going to start. And you could probably keep going on with thumbnails more and more as we're gonna, as much as until you just can't think of anything. So normally I might probably start with even maybe twice as much thumbnail as this as that brainstorm, because after this brainstorming thumbnail portion, the next part is basic kind of refining a thumbnail and just testing different type of little details. Little details is really important to the overall design as well. So, but you don't really want to move into the detail until you personally have somewhat satisfied with how the general direction is going. Now, this thumbnail. You don't have to be totally exact because you can still change it while you're just. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought right here because I'm trying to wing. You can still change your thumbnail while you're trying to while you detail it up a little bit in the next step. But then try your best to find really cool silhouettes. And right here now, if I'm looking back again, this character of the wing, I think the wing looks a little bit too narrow. It would look probably really cool with this kind of the flaps of the wing, really extended, and having this really long, giant tail kind of coming from the back. So here we go. This is the thumbnail process. And in the next part, we'll talk a little bit more about detailing stage of the dragon.
I have to admit that just drawing this stuff and like making it into a dragon is interesting exercise. Can't even lie. This is a pretty interesting exercise. Yeah. Yeah, pretty interesting. Yeah. Yeah, he was going all Photoshop on me, so I couldn't follow along with what he was doing because he was just erasing all. He was just putting lines on top of a layer. I can do the exact same thing, but the difference with Photoshop is those lines immediately cover the lines beneath it to a degree that you don't see the other ones anymore, so it looks clean. If I do it here, it just looks dirty. It looks very, very dirty. But I have to admit, this is an interesting technique to find shapes and dragons you wouldn't usually find. Yeah, pretty interesting. Pretty freaking interesting. I'll give him that much. Okay. Well, we're on to the next video. This is what we're gonna do. We're on to the next video. We're gonna go to that video. Let's go.
Hey everybody, it's me again, Andrew, and I'm back for the next part of the course, which is refining the thumbnails that we did. So we have a thumbnails. Thumbnails is really just the beginning of the whole concept process. It starts out by giving you an interesting silhouette. It further refines the direction that your concept is supposed to be. So the next part it is, from silhouette, how to, refine a little bit more the detail, how to really start approaching the sketch. Now, what I'm going to do right now, first of all, is I'm going to lower the opacity of the thumbnail, so it's a little bit, it's kind of in this gray form. And then I'm going to, and I create a layer on top right here. I just create it on top, and this is a layer where I'm going to sketch based on the thumbnails. So basically, I think the Photoshop, when I zoomed in, it kind of showed a little bit of the sketch that I did for the other some thumbnails.
Hey, by the way, EI Manuel, how you doing, man? You good? You having a good day out here? Coronavirus treating you all right? Because I'm good.
Basically, how I'm going to approach this is that I'm going to do a live sketch right now on how the thought process and what involves in my mind when I'm doing the thumbnails. And then I'm going to basically, because the limited time, I'm going to show you some of the sketch that I did on my own time afterwards on what could be achieved for each of the thumbnails. So here we go. So when I'm doing the thumbnail, same as when I'm doing when I'm doing the sketch, same as when I'm doing the thumbnail, I'm still keeping in mind, of all those keywords I'm thinking of. I'm trying to make a frog like spider, like some of the ideas of fear-stricken dragon spikes, dripping lava, and all those stuff. And I have to repeat again, don't let it limit yourself on those, but then that just provides your general direction, just like how this this thumbnail provides you general direction. Now, so with this thumbnail, I basically have the general proportions here. So I'm going to try to figure out, what I'm going to do with it. So right here, when you're doing a sketch, this is more to do with, basic drawing skill um, rather than concept. You should have a really good understanding of just anatomies of animals in general. And when I'm talking about animal, just the more you study about animals, the more you learn a little bit about joint. Just because it's a monster design, just because it's a creature that doesn't exist in real life, it doesn't mean that the anatomy could be like totally random. It's always something that a lot of students talk about. If it's a monster, why can't I just do whatever anatomy that I want? Sure you can. In drawing, there's nothing. There's nothing that's preventing any artist from doing anything they want. But the cool thing about monster design and anything like even character design is that to provide something believable for viewer that creates a lot of strong impact. And the believability is not on making it look realistic necessarily, but just the anatomy for it to really make sense. So you see the the feet right here, I kind of drew it like a little bit like a frog-like feet because I want to kind of give this some type of a frog type of character or trait for this. So maybe I could bend this leg a little bit backwards. Actually, I'm not sure. Let's see. So right here. I'm trying to imagine and build the form from the silhouette right here. I know because I remember I put the cue of fear, so I gave him this like really strong shoulder muscle. And let's see right here. These spikes that I did here. It could be the wing. It could be spikes on the back. It could be a lot of different things. So I'm really trying to figure out what I'm gonna do here. So I'm gonna put a lot more spikes right here. And for this bottom part, what I'm designing. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out this general shape of a frog. Of a frog. Let's see how a frog looks like. I don't even really remember how a frog really looks like. So, just with a frog in mind, I'm just keep giving this general, at the back of my head again. I'm still, trying to let my creativity run loose. So this is somewhat a little bit like a frog head, but then so you can imagine this could be a frog right here. But anyways, it's kind of maybe like a toad. Giving this really a lot of teeth at the bottom. I'm just kind of just trying to brainstorm as I go. And then because the keyword one was the keyword spiky, so I'm just using this chance to add a lot of spikiness to the bottom of the feet, of the jaw, the top of the head can have a little bit of spike. You don't want to go overboard with anything, unless that's the main point of your concept. You want to just, in general, add the detail at the needed area of a draw. You don't want to just totally just fill everywhere with detail. So it has just this thick, giant neck. That neck muscle is being connected right here. So for this wing, this frog, as you know, this this dragon, the wing, I'm probably gonna imagine a little bit folded up, like here. So that because I have a silhouette, it doesn't necessarily make wing has to be just this shape. It could mean that it's kind of folded up from the back. So you see how I kind of get it so fold in and it folds back out. So it gives me this stronger volume for the wing. For the wing again, you don't. My silhouette is like that, but it doesn't mean that it has to exactly follow the silhouette. So stay free from these type of boundary when you're working on concept. Just you really the main thing about concept drawing is really just let your brain stay loose. And let your creativity run when you're doing a concept like this. So I have a shape like this. And because I have this spike here, you want to keep the concept somewhat a little bit unified. You don't want to have spikes here and then have let's say fur everywhere and just have like random traits everywhere. You could have different traits, but then you want to keep things a little bit consistent. So this thing here. So the buttock will be here. So I'm gonna draw this leg kind of extending backwards right here. The feet pointing forward. Again, now we're drawing kind of like a webbed feet type design. This with back feet. Let's see. have his feet kind of extended. Actually, no, let me just try to see where to put the back feet. I'm just gonna put it in a squatting pose. So just a generally pretty safe pose. And then here is a tail. The tail could be coming forward like this. So here I have a really general shape right here. So just to work on a little bit more detail, up until for this point, you have to just see, are you satisfied with the sketch direction? If not, you might want to erase the head and go over it again. But then so far, I'm somewhat satisfied with the sketch. So now it's time for a little bit of details. I can add again. This is a spiked dragon, so when you said when we talk about in lesson part one of the lesson, the general basic trait of a dragon, 2 wings, 4 legs, and scale, we basically kept that all those general traits. So you could kind of see that this dragon, I think it looks quite different than just a typical dragon that you kind of see, but yet it still have the general trait that you could call a dragon, and people wouldn't be like, no, this is totally not a dragon. It could be a weird looking dragon, but I think it's still pretty much a dragon. So here we have the back side of the wing. We can just kind of just hint in the silhouette for it. Now for concept drawing, I'm showing you the step of how I'm brainstorming concept drawing, but then because I told you that the idea is the base from one of the most important foundation for the drawing, but so is the drawing skill. So you might feel that sometimes after you get the silhouette. So right now the drawing isn't coming out nice, isn't really coming out too well. For any type of drawing, no matter what, the basic drawing skill is still a very important factor. The fact whether or not you could illustrate the idea that you want, it really requires practice in drawing. So at the beginning, if you are having a little bit of trouble with this drawing at this moment, just think of it as just think about getting references. Let's say you're not sure how to do the head. Get some reference. You don't know how the anatomy for this arm would be, and just find your way to get your hands on a little bit of reference, and any bit of practice and everything is definitely going to help out a lot in the drawing. So I'm just adding these little parts. Right here. So while you're doing a sketch as well, the thing that you want to keep thinking about and keep imagining just at the back of your head is the background story for this dragon. A lot of students, in the past that I see a lot of artists around, they do this really design, but when I ask them, so how does this dragon hunt? What's the personality of this dragon? A lot of times, they wouldn't know. As an art standpoint, you don't really have to know about the background of your design, but then it just helps you that much more if you could understand the. Just put this aside a little bit. It just help you that much more if you could understand the dragon. For example, right now, what's going on in my head? Obviously, this dragon has a really strong jawline, strong jaw muscle, neck muscle, arm muscle, but has a really thin, narrow back leg. So he's not necessarily fast because he has a really bad, a weaker back leg, but he's definitely strong and powerful. Like you can imagine, just hop and attack and just really bite onto the enemy. So this kind of it works well for the initial direction that I planned for. A fierce dragon, and he could be poisonous. And poisonous. Here we go. I'm having him drip. Having these saliva dripping down, and these poisonous aspect and the swamp aspect. It could be really done via colors at the next part. It could be portrayed through the design elements. So everything has to really work together. So here we go. So this is probably how I would, work on this sketch right here. So for concept, you want to stay loose for how the concept for your sketches. I don't really like drawing things here too clean. I kind of like to have this really sketchy looking elements to the to the overall drawing. I think it gives it a really interesting look overall. So I'm just adding a little bit of shading, just a little bit of cross hatching. Nothing too big, just to show a general, just to add a little bit of general interesting look to the drawing, to the sketch. You want to make sure the feet is really nicely planted onto the drawing as well. So here it would be a sketch one of this dragon.
Okay, I just followed along with whatever the heck he was doing. He was going pretty freaking fast, but I was able to follow along to a certain degree. To a certain degree. Yes. Not perfect. Definitely not perfect. But to a certain degree, I was right there with him. Okay. Let's go to the next one.
Now let's move on to this interesting looking silhouette. Um, so I'm going to demonstrate again how I would work on this piece. I'm going to try to push for something a little bit more funky for this one. So if I want to see this dragon, there's different ways to approach it. You could draw the head right here with a long neck. But you know what? I'm going to give it this long, giant looking mouth. I'm not even really sure if this is going to work, but then, I'm going to move ahead. Instead of a frog, I'm going to think of what if I do kind of like an alligator look. So I'm just going to give this, a nice jaw, right? So a really thin, narrow head.
Well, let's keep going.
So, whether or not you put the eyes here, it makes a big difference for the drawing. So, you could experiment of where you want, where you feel the eyes should be. Or, for this dragon, even try to do it without the eyes. So these parts on top, it could be fur, but I'm going to kind of do it like spikes. Here. And the general body, it will probably, the spine will probably curve around here. I'll probably have to revise the face a little bit right here. But let's work on the other part of the body a little bit. So here, this dragon, basically from the silhouette, it's a lot more narrow. The body is a lot more narrow. So I'm just going to draw the basically feet right here. Let's give it this. Line right here. So again, just keep in mind right here, I'm brainstorming this live as well. I had no clue like before, this recording, this how I wanted to do design. The reason I want to do this because I really want to go over this, this brainstorming process, you know, exactly the way that I would do it, so that you'll understand the reason and why I will approach things the way I do. So again, maybe a little bit of fur right here. I think for this dragon, it will be coming a little bit quite different than typical dragon. So I'm starting with the basic anatomy right here. For this one, it has a kind of different type of shape. So I'm going to start off with a little bit more of anatomy just to show the basic. Just to have the basic shape would be. And then I could go on top and start adding detail. And I've kind of decided just so that I don't, if I put the eyes here, it will look like he has a giant head. So I'm going to put the eyes kind of at the front, actually, right here. At least my ear. So it actually looks kind of giving this awkward look where the eyes is here, but the mouth actually really extends all the way to the back. So if it opens, it'll open kind of like that way. Let's give it the spike. It's kind of like a porcupine now, now that I cover him with spikes. So right now you see the wing is somewhat small compared to to the other dragon, typical dragon. So maybe as I'm designing this, I'm imagining him. He's actually been on land. This is a land dragon. He's been evolved so that he doesn't really necessarily like fly too much anymore. He could probably not really fly at all, but then instead his wing has become one of his weapon that he used to attack with. So this is it's more like an arm, for example. I'm just going to extend right here. So kind of give him this really sharp looking wing, which doesn't look long enough to fly, but with the spiky feature, it will give it the look that it could actually really attack with it. So let's give it that overall general shell. So maybe the tail is pretty sharp as well. I was thinking of adding a lot of little interesting detail to the arm, but then thinking about it, we have a lot of details at the top. So let's give them a relatively smooth looking leg, so to kind of counter off the complex textures at the top. So these could be like spike type of fur that just kind of come down, but as it gets to the bottom, it actually is really slick looking arm. So not too much detail. So maybe you could imagine him kind of like, and I'm just making up story as I go right now. I'm going to add a little bit of fin to the side of his face. Like a little fin here, maybe a little bit fin coming down the bottom. So maybe this is a water dragon now. Now that I think about it, he could kind of swim underwater, and because of his like really slick body, he could probably swim pretty fast. So this is giving him some anatomy in the rib cage. Just keep it this little way. So let's kind of zoom out a little bit for here. I think it is having this quite an interesting look to this dragon right now. Let's see what I could kind of deal with this a little bit more. Just give him, I don't know. let's give him a little bit of fin coming out the top. Since I kind of just, I just decided to give him this aquatic property of him being able to kind of swim. So when he's like half in the water and half above, you'll probably see that if this is the water, if it was the line of the water, he's spinning underneath, you probably see the fin coming out and these spikes just coming out from the ground. So and it'll have this like really terrorizing, like kind of like incoming shark. So this is the idea slowly getting a little bit defined. And you can always, zoom in and then work on a little bit more detail, wherever you feel that is needed. And also I want to mention this method, applies even to like it applies even to what you call it, the specific area. For example, right now I'm designing dragon, but if I really just zoom in and use the silhouette method, sketching method, I could apply it to just the head. So I could do different silhouettes of the head, and then just sketch on top of it to come up with all these different looking head. So I use in general these similar method for my design and brainstorming whenever I need it to. So the same principle basically applies to any parts, even the legs, the wings. You could create silhouettes and come back with it. So right now I'm just adding a little bit of texture for the legs. So from here. I think I'm pretty much okay, and I could maybe actually, you know what? I just thought it kind of might look cool. I don't know if I'm starting to work on a little bit too much detail, but then to give it that. Maybe it's a little bit too full. Just give it a horn. I suddenly just feel like really giving him this really sharp looking horn. So this is the horn from the back. Just to kind of give it this interesting look for it. As a horn. So all these will kind of help the silhouette in general of how this dragon's gonna look. Okay, so here we go. We have these two separate sketch for these two dragons.
Seriously though, this guy was going fast, but he was explaining his steps, so I did understand what he was trying to say. Just freestyle. The only problem with whenever these guys say freestyle, they're basing their freestyle on years and years of experience. I don't have those years of experience just yet. So whenever you say freestyle, I'm like, huh? But it's okay. It's okay. I followed along to the best of my capabilities. This looks something like what he did. He based it on one of the silhouettes that he did, but I just followed along and drew what he drew just to see how he put in the details. I kind of like how he put in the details, and you can kind of see that it's a dragon. It's not flawless. It's far from flawless, but you can kind of see it's a dragon, which I am totally at peace with. Yes, totally at peace with this. Okay, go to the next video, man. Let's go to the next video.
And this is by this point, you should probably the design should be pretty much set. And again, think about if he's supposed to still be a swamp dragon. Again, like all these little minor factors, of these dripping lava, dripping poison. Those can be done, through these extra detail. I mean, because he's a dragon, he has these. What do you call it? These kind of leaves dangling on it because he's from the swamp, so he's actually kind of really dirty. So he has these vines kind of just like on top of him, he's dripping in water. And let's see. And then these spikes could actually have poison in it. So depending on how the scenario that you're drawing for this dragon, so the patterns of his horn might be really like vibrant colors. So like those vibrant color of frogs, vibrant color of amphibian that you can tell that is poisonous. So this is the two sketches that would come out from here. So hopefully you can kind of see how to refine the silhouette into this final color piece, final sketch piece. Let's take a look at what the other sketch I did for the other silhouettes. I didn't do all of them, but then here we go. I just did a bunch of silhouettes based on what I had. So I'm just gonna turn the sketch on and off to try to find a better.
Okay, so what he just did was he showed us a bunch of other drawings that he completed without actually showing us. So now he's going to talk about those. I'm not going to draw while he's talking because I want to see what he's saying.
So here, it's basically a general starting shape. And what I did here is I created this kind of flying reptilian. And again, the face, I kind of, just try to play around with it. I didn't follow exactly the face right here from the silhouette and just use it as a guideline. I think the overall silhouette, I thought it worked out really well. Right here, it was an earlier thumbnail. I think the thumbnail, has some interesting point. I was playing with some of the spider legs, and the thumbnail didn't really look all that. But I decided to, work on the sketch of it. So it's just really skinny dragon, with a really skinny tail to a point that almost looks sick. And then you have these really thin arm that I decided to play around with. Same thing for this one. For the silhouette, it's dragon. This one I stayed a little bit closer to the original design. So for here, same thing. The legs, I kind of played around with the frog type feature. If I meant it for it more like a stronger dragon, like I could probably give the arm a lot more muscular look in terms of arm. But because I meant for it to be kind of bony, and same thing. This tail, when I was drawing it, one of my focus for this tail was kind of I was imagining kind of like a tadpole. A tadpole had it basically looked like this with this tail. So it's kind of, again, this kind of the frog idea at the beginning just gave me a little bit of direction of where to push this general design. And for this one, so this was a silhouette. I thought this white line that I drew here for the silhouette, I didn't really have much purpose. I was just adding a little bit of detail, but it gave me the little idea of adding a horn right here to the side of his head. And, like I broke the rules of having 2 wings and I just gave it 4, but it's overall it still fit the description. And I didn't draw the back on, but then for this dragon, I kind of made it to have 6 legs. So this is 1, 2, 3, and the back, I didn't really finish drawing the sketch, so it has 6 legs. So I think it worked out nicely. Also for here. So let's see. Oh, here we go. The last sketch right here. So this was more of a chunky type dragon. I think it was similar to silhouette as this one that we did right here. And here I went with a little bit of a different approach. I kind of gave him a little bit of a more blocky head. If you kind of look at this dragon, it was more of an amphibian type head. And overall here he has the legs kind of point forward, but here I gave him a really thick beastie legs. So overall it kind of looked like a rhino. He's like covered in these rhino type armor, these crust overall right here, and everything in general is really having this more powerful look and impact. So I'm going to make a copy of this, and the reason I want to make a copy of this, just give me 1 second. I'm just going to put it on top for now. Before I wrap the sketch up, what I wanted to talk about was using the same silhouette. I took the time to create a second sketch based on using the same silhouette. You see, the overall silhouette is similar, but then the design I did was actually quite different. Okay, here we go. I put both of these in the drawing. So you see right here, this general silhouette, obviously look the same, but here I gave a lot more kind of fish-like feature. I kind of want to play with this bottom jaw, these little fin type aspect, and all these, I think it makes a big difference to the overall look. So what I'm trying to say is, even with the same silhouette, there's different approaches that you could do. You could probably, if you want, pull off a lot of variation for the sketch using similar silhouette. Even this bottom dragon, is somewhat of a similar silhouette, but then it's still different dragons. And then we're not even talking about colors right now, because once we start, applying colors to these creatures, it's gonna give a totally different look depending if you color black or red or green, or these spotted colors. So hopefully, this kind of give you a nice demonstration of. Just give me 1 second. Demonstration of how to approach. All these sketches and how to just refine them. You don't really have to do really clean sketches. Again, it's about brainstorming. Stay really free, stay really relaxed. Just let your ideas flow. And even for the coloring, when we're going to approach next, coloring, I'm going to do a relatively simple method of coloring, and just do enough to show what the point is, and just to wrap this concept piece up with the final step of color. So hopefully, I hope you enjoyed this silhouette to sketch refining process, and have fun with your concept design. And I'll see you next class.
I have to admit, I actually do like the whole from silhouette to concept. Nah, it's I have to admit, yeah, looks nice. Okay.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the course. In this lesson, finally, we're going to be dealing with a little bit of color. Keep in mind that in this lesson, we're not going to be dealing with like fully finished rendering of this illustration, just because concept a lot of times it revolves a little bit more on the quick coloring, just to kind of portray the concept. The importance of the coloring is actually to provide the theme, the mood, and a general tone of this monster, give it a little bit more life, and just defining the colors. The detailing and the finishing touches, every artist can do it a little bit differently, and it really depends on how detailed you want to take this to finish illustration. So for now, we're going to deal with a simple color. So for anyone that's kind of new to Photoshop, this might be a little bit hard to follow in terms of what I'm exactly doing for the coloring. But don't really worry too much about that, because I just want to get the concept of applying of the importance of the color to the concept, and not really the technical aspect of Photoshop, digital coloring. That will be something that probably needs a totally different lesson, a totally different course to really cover on digital painting aspect. So here we go. We have the sketch, and just to have a really quick crash course on the sketch, basically I have the sketch layer, this black and white layer, on a multiply mode, and I'm gonna create a layer underneath. Okay, and what I'm doing right now, I'm using the lasso tool. I'm just gonna crop out this, not crop out. I'm gonna select this this dragon. And this lesson, I will just be dealing with this one dragon for the coloring.
He's gonna color.
So right now, the first part, this is just one of the many method of coloring. I think there's a more simple way to color it. There's a more difficult way of coloring, but this is just one of my common method of just doing really quick coloring for the sketches. So So here you don't really have to be, too careful with the lasso because um, you just have to basically get the general shape correct, and that should be fine. So I'm just creating a lasso right here. Here. Again, since we're not dealing with unfinished illustration, so I'm just gonna be pretty much a little bit rough with this lasso. I'm really excited to see what type of dragons that everybody will be doing actually. Just because these sketches that you saw me done, your 6 or 7 sketches, they are really quick sketches, just from my imagination, and just imagine everybody else's imagination and direction might be totally different, and it will be really really interesting to see a really wide range of all these different type of dragons. So we're almost done with the lasso, just the tail left. So here we go. I have the lasso done. And I'm going to fill this with, it doesn't matter what color I'm going to do it with. I'm just going to fill with a color like this. So because the layer on top is a multiply, that's
Okay.
why the colors under, that's why the line's going to show through in the bottom.
Oh man, he's gonna color. I am not gonna color. I almost want to skip this part.
So you can press this G, this paint bucket to fill. I personally made a shortcut key just to fill it quickly, but it's basically the same as using this paint bucket and just clicking fill onto this on the selection. Now from here I'm going to create layers on top, and now I'm going to start to deal with the general colors for this monster. So for the bottom of the monster, for example, I'm really just playing with color. Usually. And one little neat trick I just want to teach everyone in case anyone's curious in using Photoshop. When I create a new layer, if I hold on to Alt and just put my mouse cursor between these two layers, you see the icons become this two circle. What this does, it links the layer to the layer underneath. So anything that you color on top would not exceed the border of whatever's in the on the bottom.
It's called a clipping mask.
To anyone familiar with Photoshop, it's kind of like masking, but then it's a little bit more versatile than masking, whereas you can keep changing the bottom shape and not really worry about the outcome top. So here I am, I'm applying the general color. So I'm just thinking, usually for reptilian, one of the most generic trait to the coloring is that it has these two tones. So the bottom side would be a little bit of a separate tone. So I'm doing something a little bit like this. So I could push Control U. I'm gonna hue and saturation. I could just change around this hue.
Okay. I think I'm done with this class because now he's seriously only talking about coloring, coloring, and putting details and coloring.
A little bit of difference in the final.
Let's go to the last video.
Now it's time to put in lighting. Now, for effect on the extras,
okay.
Is that the top look like these? How the various concept that could be done by just creating a dragon. So these I took probably a little bit faster time compared to to what I just did right here. So this is what we had for the first dragon. And so here, I'm just setting up colors of a generally kind of like a whitish dragon. I think for all these that I'm about to show you, I could probably push a little bit more in terms of little detail. But it's just an example. So this was what the spiky dragon that we did last class. I decided to kind of give it kind of like a fish-like look for the bottom. And so the top is actually the story kind of concepts is a little bit more organized. Then you have a little bit of more better understanding of how.
Okay. Yeah, we're done. This was an interesting course. I can't sit here and say it wasn't interesting. It was actually pretty interesting. My favorite part would have to be the fourth video
What really
where he basically was like, just sketch a silhouette and then just go over it until you find the shape you want. I have heard of that method a lot of times, but this was the first time someone actually did it for me and showed me that it was possible. Or perhaps it was the first time I actually followed along. One of those two. One of those two. You pick. You pick. That's about it. This was an interesting course. I wouldn't super recommend it unless you're already pretty good at drawing. This is not for beginners. This is for intermediate, almost high level people. But either way, it was a good one. I drew a little bit. I did a little bit. Got me a new video. So thank you guys. And I'll see you next time. Stay safe and be careful out here. Peace. And